Hey, it's Marvin McKenzie, pastor of Bible Baptist Church in Puyallup, Washington. Thought I'd give to you my daily walk, my daily visit with God today. I was reading this morning out of the book of Revelation, chapter 2. Verse 1 says, "Unto the angel of the church of Ephesus write, These things saith he that holdeth the seven stars in his right hand, who walketh in the midst of the seven golden candlesticks." And what struck me as interesting this morning was the fact there's obviously a continuity of thought from chapter 1 to this. Now here's the Lord telling the Apostle John that he's supposed to write these seven letters to these seven angels of the seven churches. So they're going to be separate letters that are going to be written here, and he's going to dictate them to the Apostle John in his passage. But when Jesus starts, he begins with this church in Ephesus, and he begins by saying, by a continuity of thought. Chapter 1, he had been talking about the fact, John says, I saw in his vision one walking in the midst of the seven golden candlesticks, and the seven stars are the seven angels, and the seven candlesticks are the churches. And now he goes right from there. He goes into, and Jesus says, all right, now just write to the church at Ephesus and say that the one who is giving you this information is the one who walks in the midst of this seven golden candlesticks, these seven churches. And there is an assumption. There is an assumption here that the church at Ephesus, the angel of the church of Ephesus, who is the pastor, the word angel simply means messenger. He's writing to the pastors of each of the churches. And there is an assumption that those pastors, those angels, have already read what is going on previous. So it's not like John's going to send a letter to Ephesus and a letter to Smyrna and a letter to Pergamos and so on. This was always intended to be one letter, to be one book, to be one article, one piece of writing here. The entire thing from chapter 1 all the way to the end. Of course, the chapters and verses, headings and so forth weren't there when it was originally written. But this entire thing, the book of Revelation, the entire thing was meant to be and was intended from the very start to be a whole, to be a unit, which means that you're not going to be able to understand properly the letter to the church at Ephesus unless you understand what happens in chapter 1. It starts out, he who walketh in the midst of the seven golden candlesticks. Well, you know what he means by that by reading chapter 1, by seeing what's previous. And I am going to suggest that it goes farther than that the seven letters cannot be interpreted individually, isolated from one another, that the seven letters depend upon chapter 1, and each letter depends upon every other letter to be able to properly understand them. And that, in fact, to properly understand the seven letters to the seven churches, you've really got to have the whole thing together. None of it stands alone. These churches, it also suggests to me that these churches, though there were seven of them, though they are individual churches, they also don't stand alone. They're whole units, but they're not isolated units. There is a relationship that is important between each one of them, between each of these seven churches. And the principle, I think, that is seen here, the book of Revelation, it depends upon the whole. You won't get the proper interpretation of any one of the seven letters without reading all of the seven letters and without reading what's before and what's after. And I think that same principle holds true of the entire Bible. No one part of the Bible can stand without the rest of the Bible. It all depends on the Bible, the Word of God. It all depends upon itself. It's as a unit, as a whole. So a verse of the Bible, or a chapter of the Bible, or a book of the Bible, even a testament of the Bible that's taken without consideration of the rest of the Bible becomes wrested from the Bible. Those churches that say, well, we're just New Testament churches. We don't pay any attention to the Old Testament. We're New Testament churches. It's unscriptural. But that bunch that would say, well, the Old Testament, that's where the truth is, and we follow the Old Testament, that's as unscriptural. In order to understand any part of the Bible, we've got to be looking at the entire Bible. And see it as it holds together. The cults are all built on saying, yeah, but look at this verse. Yes, but look at this verse. Well, look at this. And sometimes it seems like it's very difficult to argue because they've got this verse, this proof verse. And there is no such thing as a proof verse. There is an infallible Word of God. The entire thing, taken as a whole, taken as a unit. That's where truth comes from. Well, this is Marvin McKenzie. I'm pastor of Bible Baptist Church in Puyallup, Washington. You can find us on the web at www.puyallupbaptistchurch.com. Puyallup is Puyallup. All right, God bless you.